Hello everyone, welcome back to biology. I'm just going to take a quick run through of what you did in that lockdown period, where we should be up to with biology A level. Essentially a reminder of what we've achieved so far and where we're going to go next. Okay, so at the end of March, when we were thrown into lockdown, we were just finishing off booklet 6, which was transporting plants. And if you go back to your notes from there, you'll know that transporting plants includes cohesion tension theory, those explanations of the photometer experiments, and then mass transport or translocation and the phloem. Your teachers will have shared resources with you for that. Plenty of stuff that I'm going to show you where to find for everything that we did during that lockdown period. I'll show you that in a bit. After that, so I think just before Easter, we moved on to booklet 7, which was DNA and genetic variation. It includes a structure of DNA, DNA replication, so semi-conservative replication, protein synthesis including transcription and translation, and then towards the end of that, some stuff on mutations, genetic diversity, and the cell cycle, so mitosis and meiosis. After that, so in that period between Easter and what would have been half term, we finished off the lower 6th content, which was booklet 8, variation and diversity. That begins with some stuff on classifications of species and taxonomy, investigating diversity, sampling techniques included there. Then genetic comparisons using proteins, DNA and RNA, and then finally biodiversity and how you measure biodiversity, species richness and index of diversity, etc. Okay, and that took us up to what would have been half term in the summer term, and at that point, I think that's when we did our first sort of end of year test on forms. And we'll come back to that idea of testing in a minute. Then, in the last 6 weeks of term, and some of you came in towards the end of this, we made a start on the upper 6th content, which begins with booklet 1, inheritance and evolution. At the beginning of that, there's some bits on just some terminology, and then meiosis again. So meiosis underpins, or the variation created by meiosis underpins inheritance. So this is a really important topic. It's really important for you to get a good understanding to help you with the rest of this. Then we looked at some inheritance. So monohybrid inheritance and the test cross, codominance, multiple allelism, sex-linked inheritance, pedigree charts, and finishing off with dihybrid inheritance, which takes you up to about halfway through that booklet 1. We finished at dihybrid inheritance, and you'll be really pleased to know that in the first few weeks after, from next week onwards, we're going to recap most of this. Okay, so most of the inheritance content we are going to go over again. We're going to recover. That's going to allow you to ask any questions. If you've got any, some of those methods of inheritance and explaining them are quite tricky, and enable you just to make sure that you are completely up to scratch with what we should be doing. We're going to start with meiosis. So reiterate, that is absolutely vital to understanding the rest of the inheritance topic. From meiosis that we'll do next week, so that is the 1st of September onwards, in fact Tuesday will be the 2nd, won't it? We'll then continue with monohybrid, codominance, sex linkage, etc. Okay. Many of you have asked about an end of year test. Now what we found as teachers, and you may agree with this, was that the end of year multiple choice test that we did on Teams was actually really successful in judging our students, you guys, your progress that you've made through the first year. Now, whilst multiple choice doesn't favour everyone, on the whole, I think it was really successful. So we will not be repeating that process. We're not going to do another whole end of year test when we return in September. Instead, what we're going to do is a rigorous written test on the topics from lower sixth that we covered in the lockdown period. So booklets 7 and 8, as well as the beginning of inheritance. Again, we'll do that after we've completed that recap. So these topics will be covered again, as will booklet 7 and 8 in that first test towards the end of September. A date for that you'll be given when you see your teachers next week. Okay, so this will help us determine your UCAS predicted grade. It's not going to be the only test that we use. We've got a good record of all of those tests before lockdown. We've got a good record of what you did over lockdown, and also the end of year test that we did on forms. But if you weren't always happy with your grades that you achieved then, this is going to be a really good opportunity for you to show us how much work you've been doing over the summer and to improve on your predicted grade, provide us with that last bit of information that we need as teachers to give you a realistic but ambitious predicted grade. Okay. I think I said earlier, all of the content from the lockdown period is available on the OneDrive, as is the rest of the content that we covered throughout the first year. All you need to do is go onto the OneDrive, in the search bar, type in Biology A-Level, and up will pop a folder. In that folder there is one folder that says Year 1, one folder that says Year 2. You're all intelligent enough to work out what that means. Have a look in there. I'm sure you have been doing so over the last few months anyway. As well as that, your teachers will have been sharing loads of resources with you over that period. Make sure you're completely up to date with all of that stuff. And then finally, it's a little bit self-promotion, but if you want to view any of the videos that I've made, go onto YouTube, search for Edward Hillman Biology, and everything from right at the beginning of that lockdown period, so from plants, all the way through to the most recent things that we've done in inheritance, there will be a video on there for you. If you've got any other questions, email us or save them for next week when you see your teachers again. We're all really looking forward to seeing you. All the very best until then. Take care.